guys, welcome again to our latest talk on Irish Canna Clinic, and we're keeping with the youth vibe after the last video with UCD's SSDP. Manny, it's still up online. Give it a look, give it a subscribe, and it's a really wonderful thing. Manny is laying out he had an open letter that went to Taoiseach, to the Citizens' Assembly, and to everybody to let people know that the students of Ireland want to legalise all drugs. He's currently working in a part of UCD that's studying psilocybin and the benefits of psilocybin on things like PTSD. So that's another area. Today, though, we're going to I'm delighted to have another leading light of the SSDP, soon to be the SSDP in DCU. He's currently out in Belgium, eating waffles, drinking Belgian beers, and hopefully he's going to return and set up that chapter. Ryan, how you doing? Ryan Mc Hale, everybody. Ryan, how you doing?
Doing great, Steve, and thanks for having me. Nice to be here, to be honest with you. Thanks.
Yeah, looking very bohemian, you know, if I must say myself. And no, great to have you, man. You're another great youth voice. I've been following you. Ryan, as I haven't mentioned, Ryan is also one of the primaries of Crainn, which is, I would say, one of Ireland's leading lights in terms of cannabis conversation. And he's Crainn. I'm going to ask Ryan. Tell us who Crainn are. What are Crainn?
Yeah, well, we're basically an advocacy group for drug law reform. Special focus on cannabis. Of course, it's the most used drug. It's the closest to our heart in Crainn. But we try and just empower the public really to get involved in these conversations, especially people who love cannabis, who enjoy cannabis. Or just sympathetic to the cause, to get involved and to actually do really good things, really pragmatic things, and make a difference. And we also work with politicians when we can to try and just get them over the line on this, because at this stage the evidence is overwhelming for the need to reform drug laws, and people are suffering really, really badly because of inaction. So that's kind of what we do. We're a broad church. We have a lot of members on Reddit. Lots of members on social media and stuff like that.
You have a lot. How many have you got, Ryan? You've told me before, I think, in conversation.
The Reddit's coming up to about 40,000 now, I think. I have to check that, but been going for years now. So it's just the place where people go on Reddit to talk about cannabis in Ireland. And
would be my impression. Reddit is a younger demographic as well. Would that be correct?
I think so. Yeah, maybe 20s to 30s.
Right, there you go. Well, yeah. 20s. That's the youth to me.
yeah, my age.
Yeah, and that's great, man. That's why you're here, because we want to hear. You've all got votes. So all of those, there's 40,000 votes there. If you look at it that way, that's always been my interest in kind of mobilizing with the UCD, SSDP in the beginning, is that every student has a vote. And so, you know, those votes count. And if students can get themselves together, they can be a force. It's been shown all over the world.
Absolutely, yeah. Students in this are very, very important. I think there's a bit of it's lacking. I think when I looked at the history before my time as a university student now, with the SSDPs that were going on with Graham, DeBarra, Martin Condon, and all those guys, all those characters, that stuff was incredible. That really pushed things over the line. And kind of
around 2013, they were really rocking with complementing Ming's bill. Ming had his bill at the time, and so the SSDP, they really showed themselves at that time, and they had amazing speakers. Graham would have arranged all that, amazing speakers in Trinity. So yes, they are a force when they properly lose their apathy and get mobilized.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I remember talking to some people that were involved in the past. The thing with it is, because you're only in university for so long, once people leave, those societies and those groups can have to refresh.
Yeah.
And it's about having to start them again, kind of all the time. You're losing members every year, you're getting new ones. So I think that's kind of what it is. I think the students have strong views on it, but they don't really know what way to tackle such seemingly big problem, I think. Um, but I don't know, when I look back to what happened back then, some of the newspaper articles that were going out, some of the talks that are up on YouTube still, like they really had the ball rolling back
Yeah.
then. Like goes to show, like if we had that now, you know, I think we'd be getting there a lot faster, you know.
Yeah, but you will, you know, and it's, I believe that maybe in this year of 2023, because there's so much kind of, for the first time, we're getting activists are getting stuff into the press, into the mainstream media. They're paying attention, and it's mainly because it is Citizens Assembly.
Mm.
Citizens Assembly, finally, years in the formation, you were looking at it, were you?
Yeah, yeah, you know yourself, kind of some of the concerns that were raised there a couple of weeks beforehand. There was a lot of maybe pessimism, a
Yeah,
bit of cynicism maybe as well. I personally was feeling fed up with it then at that stage when we found out about some of the anti-cannabis names that were looking to be involved. But it's actually started now. The Citizens Assembly just over the weekend just gone, and I have to say, feeling a little bit more optimistic now. You know,
I would join you in that without a doubt, you know,
yeah,
because it's a conversation now, you know, it's out
yeah,
there, and mainstream media are paying attention. That never happens, you know.
yeah, they are paying, and they're reporting kind of both sides. What we're saying is there's been 2 days so far, and there's been two sides to the debate here, which is exactly what we need. We need the both sides. Like at the end of
Sure.
the day, you know, issues with the advisory group and whatnot. It's not really about wanting to fill up with our side or whatever. It's just we want balance. That's all we want. And I think the citizens there, that's what really impressed me. Never mind some of the speakers were great, but the actual citizens who aren't, you know, experts or doctors and stuff like that, had so much knowledge on this issue about legalization, decriminalisation, prosecution. They actually seem to know a lot more than I gave them, than I might have given them credit for before it started. But very impressed. They know what the key issues are. The finger is on the pulse, and
They're asking the questions.
they're asking the right questions. That's the key thing. They're asking the right questions. They know, you know, what's going to happen with this, how important it is. I think they realise that, and they know that, you know, this is a big chance. So I'm really impressed with it so far. You know, there's been a few things that were said there that were a bit not great, but it's good that they're being said and that the public can see both sides and make their own mind up. To be honest with you, I have confidence that they're going to make the right choice and recommend some really strong positions.
Yeah, because that's all we're getting at the end is recommendations,
Yeah,
but you
definitely.
want them to come in an atmosphere that's strong enough that the public all know about the recommendations, and the public realize that, okay, this is possible, that's difficult, that's not possible. So it's about informing the public on the as it falls down. It's yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So what would be the issues that you've seen?
The issues, I think there's been a couple of different topics kind of brought up. So far, you know, we're seeing different perspectives. Like we had a lot of statistics throughout most of it. The bulk of it is just a lot of statistics about what the research bodies know about drug use in Ireland. There's no real positions on what to do about it. There's just statistics, which I suppose is important as well. But I think the main two kind of positions I seen was from on the first day there was a panel called Lived Experience, which had
Yeah.
couple of figures there. I think Billy McMahon was one of them, Andy O'Hara from Ishka, and Dr. Sharon Lambert. Now that panel for me um, really hit the spot. I thought those people, but coming with their lived experience, albeit maybe different than some people in in the cannabis community, but not really. At the end of the day, they're talking about the harms of criminalisation, talking about the harms of coming into trouble with the guards. They're talking about the positives of some drug use, which was great to hear. Dr. Sharon Lambert was talking about
Yeah.
not all drug use is bad. Some people use drugs for good reasons.
There's a
Which
reason that people are using drugs, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
fundamentally.
yeah, exactly. I didn't expect to hear that on the first day. Now to someone be talking
Yeah.
about stuff like that, and I believe Dr. Sharon Lambert was talking about cannabis as well. I don't know if you caught that. She was talking about
Yeah.
if someone wants to have a cannabis edible, they should be, they should be allowed. It's the same as having a drink. It's actually safer than having a drink, is what she said. Which, that
Yeah.
really read the way I was delighted to hear that.
Yeah, but she's
That's,
obviously highlighting the fact that edibles are not smoking, and the fact that look, everybody kind of agrees smoking is bad, and it's combustion. Like it's in my world, I use cannabis, but I vape because
not very good.
why combust when you convect when you can
Yeah, very
convect?
good.
But it's because I don't want to put toxic chemicals into my lungs, and that's a valid thing. So she was very much, I think, on that thing that if people choose an edible instead and against a pint of whatever, then it has to be valid.
The vape, the dry herb vape. Just to point on that. Someone said it kind of as a joke to me, but it actually has some merit to it. Some sort of information campaign about like that the government can do if they choose to legalize cannabis. Because some of the anti ones say, "Oh, it's bad for your lungs if you smoke it." How about we inform people on dry herb vapes? They're out there. They're being used in Germany.
Yeah.
They're being used in Ireland on the MCAP. So look at the oleo. So
Sure. I mean,
let
and
people decide.
you heat to a certain temperature, you're really not doing any damage, and so that's all in the education of the people, and you're educating people how to use, so you're minimizing damage. We don't have the same ability with cigarettes, with nicotine. There's only one way to consume nicotine, and that's smoke it. No, I don't ever seen. Well, they are vaping, I guess. Is that
Right?
yeah?
Yeah,
Of
the
course,
vape,
yeah.
yeah, nicotine as well. Apparently, it's safer, but I'm no expert on stuff like that. To be honest with you, but I've heard with the cannabis vape, like that they are safer. Yeah, 100% safer, and people should know that. The
Yeah.
reason why people can't know that is because it's illegal at the moment. The people can't be properly informed about safe ways to consume unless we have a new system which doesn't demonize drug use.
And the strongest identifier will always be the having a joint, and I mean, look, I loved my joints for most of my life and all of that, and but there's a certain point I just well, with my with my illness, yeah, I moved to vaping. But everybody can vape, nobody can. People can choose how to consume. They can have, like the lady says, they can have edibles. They can have. There's a lot of ways to consume this plant, this wonderful plant.
Yeah,
And
and that's yeah.
no, go on. What else were your impressions?
Yeah, I think kind of that first day, that first panel there on lived experience, kind of talking about really stuff that I would agree with. I think most of us would agree about decriminalisation and legalisation. Talking about like we just need to do it. We can't wait any longer. The second day we got a different picture. We had completely different side of the coin, which was it's quite it's interesting to look at. We had the second day the guards and the Department of Justice and the
Justice.
Department of Health officials come in to do a talk about what they think, and theirs was completely different. Basically, the Gardaí were asking the citizens and not to take away their stop and search powers, not to take away the drug laws, and just basically just to keep them as they are. They basically said, we're happy with the current model, it's keeping people safe, and we have stop and search powers so we can keep you safe. So don't vote to change the laws, please don't. That's basically what they were doing. And I don't
And I
think,
think they were looking for further empowerment in the sense of we need funding. We need more funding and the Justice Department were saying, well, that was their angle as well. So they're asking for more funding to continue the war on drugs. And you're kind of going,
drugs, yeah,
if it wasn't working, why would there be a citizens' assembly?
yeah.
And yeah. So tell us about the health department. How did you find the health department? Because
The Department of Health. Now we met the Minister for Health, the previous one, and some of his officials there in the Department of Health. Now, um, it's safe to say it's kind of hard to get a clear view on them, but it's safe to say that they think that the current model that we have right now is a health-led model. They believe it's a health-led model. They call it a health-led drug use model, but that's kind of what they were saying at the Citizens Assembly. It's health-led, but we need more funding and stuff like that. no real
We need
view.
more funding.
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
more funding. Of that second day, I don't know how many times there was kind of like, we need more funding, but there weren't, nothing was offering a kind of innovative change.
yeah.
Everybody just, we need more funding for the same thing.
Well,
Felt like,
my view on if the Department of Health wants more funding to deal with addiction, the easiest thing to me, the most simple thing to me, would be stop sending people to court for drugs. Think about how much
oh,
money they'd save from that. So it would have been nice to hear that. But yeah, the Department of Health, um, you know, people in there have strong views against decriminalisation, not even legalisation. Never mind legalisation. Don't even talk about decriminalisation to them. They won't give you a word. But at the end of the day, it's not up to them. Um, at this stage, it's not up to them what happens. It's up to the 99 citizens, whether we want to decriminalise or legalise. It's not up to the Department of Health anymore, which is can only be a good thing. And I don't think their case was that convincing, to be honest with you. I think I get that sentiment from you as well. They weren't that convincing. They didn't really
my
push.
feeling is there's too many sound bites, and they have their kind of mantra of it's a health-led approach and it's this and that. They've convinced themselves. That's what I feel, is that they're not looking for innovate, like I said, innovative solutions. Like you said, using the resources, not thinking about we need funding. More, there's plenty. How come the Kinahans have so much money? How come there's so much money in the black market? And so, but there's no kind of there was no real thinking like that. That was my impression anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's the missing piece of the puzzle here. How much money is going towards the cartels over just cannabis alone? Never mind the
Yeah,
court, never mind anything like that. Just cannabis sales, a lot of money that's not going into the taxpayers' wallet there.
not going into help.
Not going into health or addiction and stuff like that. At the end of the day,
Yeah,
we're spending way more money on the courts than we are on treating addiction.
yeah.
Um, and the addiction thing is its own problem, with funding, and there's not enough money for addiction. There's not enough resources, because the resources are going into the police cracking down and going into the courts and solicitors and all this. It's just all a mess at this stage. But that's the solutions I think we need, and that's what I think the citizens are waiting to hear. The
Yeah.
99 citizens are waiting to hear something that clicks with them, like on the fourth day, because you could tell on the fourth day with the talk about lived experience and criminalisation, that was
It was
really
a
connected.
criticism, sorry to interject. It was a
Yeah,
criticism in the beginning, and from a lot of people I spoke with. There was no like people who use drugs on
yeah, yeah,
any of the advisory, what are they called, the advisory services or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a lack of that. There's the lived experience. There's
Mm,
retelling of cases and retelling of all that. But I still think there needs to be some actual users
yeah,
brought into
yeah,
the conversation.
yeah. I'd agree 100%. That's one of the things. Like, I'm happy with the panel. I think there's good people on that panel, but
Yeah,
not putting any of them down. But like, in fairness, if it's going to be really representative of Irish society, there should be someone on there who's using cannabis honestly in some way, shape, or form. I think medical cannabis would be very powerful. I think the citizens want to hear that. That's what they want to hear. Let them hear what they want to hear. Because 75% of the public, recent poll there just done a few days ago, support changing the laws for reform. So yeah, the citizens there need to hear from all people who use drugs, especially I think the medical cannabis stories, as you know yourself, they really do connect with you, and they open your eyes to that world of things that's often closed off. So, but I agree with those criticisms. I do, yeah. I think there should have been more inclusion, or an application process, maybe public application process, where people can apply with their own stories and maybe get a chance to go onto it. But it was just picked. It was just chosen in private. Nobody knew about
yeah,
it.
yeah. Is that so? It's chosen by what, a committee, like a committee. That was some of the criticisms in the organization in the beginning. Was it wasn't transparent enough? Did you
Yeah, I
feel
think
that?
it. Yeah, yeah. About kind of the administration of the citizens'
Yeah,
assembly.
of the citizens itself.
It's a little bit. It's not really transparent. It's hard to find out what the rationale is behind who's getting chosen, why they're being chosen, what way the timetable is working. It's all just kind of given to you, and you have to kind of work within that framework. There's not really there's not that engagement, not yet anyway. So having any engagement with them has been quite it's been lacking. That's a word for it. It's been a bit lacking.
How do you feel in general about it? I mean, is it a positive you're feeling after the first 2 days? It's only the first 2 days.
It's only the first 2 days. I think there's going to be lots of ups and downs throughout the whole thing. I think there's going to be days where, wow, that was amazing, this is going to change everything, and then there's going to be other days based on what's said where we're like, oh, I can't believe that was said. But like looking on the whole thing now, really, after seeing the first 2 days and seeing the contrast between the views, um, and seeing the negative views, and that didn't really get me down. Seeing the negative views, I felt that was actually kind of somewhat appropriate that
It has to be there.
that they were there. We need them there. It's
Sure, you can't have an echo chamber. You can't have just one point of view. Yeah, and it's there. It's like a parliament. It has to be discussed, and it has to be beaten out for sure.
And that was one of my concerns, really. I think that was a lot of people's concerns, that was going to be an echo chamber, but in a sense that there was going to be a lack of transparency, very strong views represented against. But there are both sides of the coin represented, which is good. But yeah, like the second day, I thought it was great to see the guards up there just telling the public exactly what their view on it is. Like, thank God they told us, because it's very hard to find out what they think.
It is.
Clear. Yeah, very clearly.
And I was curious about him, the guy, the spokesperson, because I didn't think he's actually he's dealing with the big crime, big cab, and the top end of crime. And you're kind of going, is that really? I felt you wanted a more I don't know, a public facing guarded spokesperson or something. I don't know. That's what I felt, at least. So I don't know, what did you think about it?
Well, clearly he's representing the Gardaí as an organisation there. That's different. That's a whole different system to just being a guard, and to just being a guard, being in the organisation. Completely different. I'm sure a lot of guards have their own views on legalisation and positive views on legalisation, but as an organisation, obviously that's the collection of more senior figures who have their own views. And
are you aware of CanCard in the UK?
Yeah, I listened to her speech at the sugar club there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, in that conference we did, the PFSA. But CanCard is a curious thing. It always feels like it's almost like they've done it in the UK. It exists. It's fantastic, in my opinion. And the fact that people are not in danger, it's a form of decriminalisation somehow. The fact that you can carry a card, that if you get stopped on the street, you can go, well, I'm a patient and this, and you're identified, And but herself, I forget the lady's name, but they always kind of say that Ireland just seems like a really much a bigger nut to crack or something. And so our Gardaí are something, are big, huge part of this picture, and we got to see more of them. That's my feeling. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we might see them again, maybe, because I think there's week 4 is specifically focused on criminal justice,
right?
So we might see more of them there, but we'll also see other sides as well, which is good. I'm not exactly sure about. We don't know. That's just speculation, really. But I imagine that would be one of the ones to watch. I think week 4, criminal justice. That's going to be one to watch. So keep an eye out for that one, because that's really the core of this, whether or not we have a criminal justice approach or a health-led approach. So,
sure.
But, yeah, the Gardaí, interesting statements. I suppose they made clear their position, and that's good to know. That's good to know moving forward, and that's good for the 99 citizens to know moving forward. And I thought the arguments that they had, for me, they weren't convincing. It might be different for the 99 citizens, but they kind of said they don't want decriminalisation because their stop and search powers go, because it will promote drug tourism, which they don't want, and it will also cause some sort of issue with the United Kingdom. But those 3 issues to me didn't really seem that important in context of the wider discussion about addiction, about criminalisation, about stigma, criminal records, lack of access to medicine. So those arguments don't stack up against those bigger issues for me personally. I hope it's the same for the 99,
So the reason we have you on here, do you feel like you're represented as a youth? You're part of your Generation Z. I know this because that's an interesting thing. Are you do you feel represented here now that you've seen 2 days?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. I don't actually feel. I don't think any of us in our space, in the kind of cannabis activism space, feel represented just yet. To be honest with you, I don't really actually. There's been, as far as I know.
What's your feeling? Sorry to interrupt. What's your feeling? Do you ascribe to the USI? Are sitting on a. I read their Congress. They had their Congress in Sligo just last week, and I read their Congress report about what they're sitting. They want legalized, just like Manny, and you know that they want legalization of all drugs. What do you think? What do you think about that?
That's very good. I think that's good actually. I think they should be there. They should be in the Citizens Assembly talking. I'm waiting to hear about are the student unions going to be here, because I know the student unions support these types of issues, and that they do have their own views on it. But like, I feel like the first day did represent some of my personal views, but kind of the more intricate things about specific types of drug use, like with young people and college students and with cannabis users, I don't feel like that's been represented just yet, but I feel like it's setting up to be that way. But the student unions should be in there talking to the citizens. They have good experience on stuff like festivals, what's being done at festivals with the stuff that goes on there, and the lack of dosage and the lack of testing and stuff like that. Then something I see the student union talking about a lot is spiking. What goes on with spiking? Yeah. Test kits will be very, very important for that. Test kits that you can use in a nightclub.
There you go.
It's terrible. You have to do that. That's what's come to. But we need to have a more open conversation about drug testing. What are drugs? Having just a discussion about them. And the students, to be fair to them, they are ready to have them conversations when you talk with them. You know, they're very on the ball with a lot of other issues as well in society.
Yeah, but they're very harm reduction focused, and that's something that you didn't hear much of. You didn't hear much of. I didn't hear much of that in the first weekend of the Citizens Assembly. What you're talking about there, testing and all those kinds of issues. I mean, that's really, really important. I can't wait to have. I'm going to have Graham DeBarra on here. Graham is currently in Thailand, so we'll get to hear all about his experience of Thailand. But his more than that, his most valuable experience in terms of he was behind what happened in Electric Picnic last year, and I know that he wasn't happy with everything that happened around it, even though you find a lot of officialdom, the police, and a lot of the kind of politicians that are out there going say, oh yeah, that happened. But like we spoke before, that after Electric Picnic, how many people, hundreds of people went to court and were prosecuted for various. I would like to know a breakdown of all those cases that came out of, on the Monday of Electric Picnic, how many people had their lives changed.
I was surprised to see that, because we were assured that the guards wouldn't be interfering with drugs anymore and personal use of drugs and stuff like that. But that's sort of what we were told. And I'm surprised that there wasn't as much attention brought to it. And we shared it around on social media, but kind of a lot of national media just ignored it and didn't fact check what was being said about this drug test and stuff, and the reality that there were actually hundreds of personal possession arrests, and lads were in court pleading not to have a conviction and donating to the poor box, which is still happening, even though we have drug testing. Even though
I went through the same experience 35 years ago. How long ago was that? So 35 years ago, in the trip to Tip, I went through the exact same experience. Stopped and searched at a festival. In whenever the trip to Tip was, I can't even remember, but I believe it's about they celebrate the anniversaries and stuff like that. But and when I went to court, when I was dragged to court, so that's 35 years ago, and I was dragged to the court after that event, and I was just gone 18, and I got away with a much wrangling, and I wasn't in the first raft of people. I was living in Northern Ireland at the time, and I missed the first couple of summonses, and that was an amazing thing for me to happen. And but then when I eventually went to court, I got a courthouse poor box donation, and so I didn't have a conviction. And but the point is that I was just gone 18, and it would have changed my life. And that's the reality. That's why I'm always enamored by this entire thing. And it's still going on 35 years ago, 35 years later. At that time, that I was told in that court that 27 people had been, that judge that I was in front of there was 27 other people had been done on that stop and search in Tip to Trip, and they all went to jail. So how about that? So that's 27 lives 35 years ago. Where are those 27 people? Who knows? But they were criminalized, whatever age they were. 35 years ago, they were criminalized that immediately. And I know a lot of people in Trip to Tip and festivals, particularly, because it's a stop and search.
So, yeah, their lives are, like, your life is put on hold nearly. You can't do certain things, you can't go certain places, can't get certain jobs, can't get involved in certain community activities. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to have something like that. I know a few people, yeah, who have them. It's a nightmare, and it's very, very hard to shake off of it. And something that needs to be gone out into the public. It's actually
students,
cool.
particularly students, the students can be carrying. You can just have a couple of grams of whatever. Like we're talking, this is a little bit about hash. That's an issue. I'm wondering, how do you feel about putting all the drugs together into this one citizens' assembly, or do you think they should be separated? I believe it should be separated.
That's something I want to talk to you about, because I know you have views on that. I've heard you speak on it before. Personally, now I think there's people who kind of want to separate them. Aon O'Riordan is actually one of them. He wants to decrim, have that in one corner, and then legalization in another corner. And I think you're similar to him actually in some ways. But
I would separate the drugs. So I believe that cannabis can be treated separately. Look at New York. New York just went and legalized in New York cannabis, nothing else. And so, Fauci, think of the resources that New York has that went into them going through with the legalization in a place like that, and Fauci, all the resources that he has health-wise to check out exactly what's involved in that, and there you go. There's your cannabis sorted. That's the way I see it. Everything else, then it's true. We have a cocaine epidemic. We have these other issues, so that's why I find the student position to want to legalize it all. That's very interesting, and I would. That's where I would be if you want to. I shouldn't be given it.
It's interesting. Personally, I think the Citizens Assembly, I think it's a good thing, to be honest with you, that they're all being dealt with as the one at the moment, because realistically, at the end of the day, it's all under the same law, the Misuse of Drugs Act.
Yeah, that's why, and that's the reason.
But like issues with kind of addiction and stuff like that are pretty bad at the moment in Ireland. And the stuff with cannabis is pretty bad. What's going on with terms of the synthetics, in terms of intimidation, in terms of arrests and convictions and raids. So I think for the best way moving forward, like I think once the Citizens Assembly happens and it's all teased out, and we have, because the drugs are kind of being separated a little bit already in the discussions we're talking about. They're separating in the sense of problematic drug use and non-problematic drug use. Now, cannabis typically fall under the non-problematic category. But I think if this assembly comes out with some sort of recommendation to legalise cannabis, there'll probably be some other commission or committee set up to deal with that then in more detail, because I think figuring out how to legalise cannabis and what to do, I think that's pretty difficult. I don't think Citizens Assembly has really the scope to do a full legalisation plan. Maybe some ideas of what to look at, but I think we'll start to see them separated out as the policy gets better. I think it's a negative consequence of the policy. They're all grouped together under the current law.
Yeah.
I think the citizens assembly gives us an opportunity to draw out the distinctions between drugs and what we can do, because each one of them needs to be treated a little bit differently, you know. So I think that's what's happening here. I think we'll see that more in the future. Personally, that's speculation, obviously, but I think it's good that they're being teased out altogether, because it would have been a shame if cannabis was excluded. That was the idea at the start, you know. Um, that was it. That was being said by the ministers, that they don't want this to be about cannabis. They want it to be about, you know, heroin. But I think because there was vocal people in the community, in the public, they had no choice but to say, right, you know, we have to do it. But I don't know. I think we might see more separation as we move forward, you know, because I do agree with you. Cannabis needs to be treated differently than other drugs. That's just the way it works. Like,
It'll
I think,
clean it up somehow. It'll make life easier. It feels like, you know, because it feels complicated that there's so many dynamics. Yeah. So look, so what I get the feeling that you're quite positive about the whole thing, and that's great that you are.
yeah, cautiously optimistic now, because it's, you know, it's back and forth. It's like a pendulum swinging in this field, like with drugs, because it's been illegal for so long, and it's very easy to get hopeful, because I think if you're involved in activism and stuff like that, you're a positive person generally. You want to make a change, you believe in making a change, so you're quite susceptible to feeling positive, and then it can get ripped away from you very quickly. So I think we're going to get more of that, but I think in view of the whole thing, I think I am positive. Looking forward to this for a long time, you know, the Citizens Assembly on drugs. It's a big
Very
deal.
good. Well, I think, look at, I'm going to wrap it, because I'm going to wrap it in positivity. And because I feel heartened, greatly heartened. We also have Germany making really good soundings going on over there. There's a lot of things happening at the same time. And because when you have other countries doing things like that, it kind of filters through into your citizens' assembly, and the atmosphere is all good. So 2023, could we have change, you think?
I think we'll have a report by the end of it. I don't think we'll see any change. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that's going to take long. I think once it ends in October, I think, and then there's a report,
Yeah.
the place around then, and then the report needs to be sent up and needs to be looked at. So, but I think 2023 will end in positivity, if that makes sense. I think we'll end with a plan to see legalization. I think we'll be feeling a bit more like the Germans, maybe arguing about what model of legalization, instead of arguing about if we're going
How
to
it
have
fits with the
legalization.
EU.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be a better place to be in than where we are right now. So I hope that's where we are by 2023, the end of 2023, being realistic.
Look, man, I'm going to leave it there, because we're going to have you back for sure down the line when it's playing out, because I love how I'm following Crainn, you, and what Crainn are doing online, and you have very measured kind of attitude, and you're kind of very you have a good balance about your opinions on it, and so let's revisit this later in the day.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to do a retrospective to see how wrong or right we were.
There you go. So,
That'd be
and that's what
interesting.
we'll do down the line. So I'll leave it tonight, Ryan. Let's leave it at that. And thank you for coming along. And you know, let's be positive. And whatever happens, there's a lot of things to sort out. And I feel greatly heartened by the weekend and stuff. And we have my fear is we have an electoral cycle to move into, a new one, and they love to kick the can down the road. There's a lot of politics gonna be kicking around the place in the new year, and let's see what happens there. But so tell us about this week. A lot of stuff going on around town. 420, big major have their big thing going on in the park, and stuff going on in Stephen's Green. And you've got something, Crainn, or who is it? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's grand. We done an event last year, a very similar event. It was actually one of our first thing last year. We're still quite new on the scene. But the last 420 we done our first event. We called it Information Day, Cannabis Information Day. So basically, we were looking to do kind of a more face-to-face, fact-based campaign about breaking down the stigma around cannabis. medical cannabis, and giving people information. We had these lovely pamphlets on cannabis, its benefits, its negatives, but really unbiased look at it and a proper conversation. Got people very interested. A lot of people who are older, especially, very interested in trying medical cannabis. So this year it's a bit different because we have the Citizens Assembly. So same idea, we're going to be talking to the public about stuff like this. But this year we're going to be talking to them about the Citizens Assembly and how they can get involved and how they can have their voice heard, and just really getting people just involved and interested in the process. And even if someone doesn't get involved and maybe they just keep more up to date with it, you know, that's a good thing as well for people to be in the know about what's going on. So that's really what it is. We're going to have volunteers at the GPO at noon on Thursday morning. Thursday at noon. We'll have the high-vis jackets on, we'll have the pamphlets, we'll have the clipboards and the surveys out there talking. And then at 2 p.m, I think the Cannabis Activist Alliance are doing a nice event in Stephen's Crainn that's going to have people speaking. It's going to have music, raffles, all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a good day out, 20th of April, 420. And we'll be out on the streets with pamphlets, and we'll be chatting with the public, just seeing what the story is. It's good to see what's going on and what people are thinking about the Citizens Assembly. I reckon a lot of them maybe aren't aware of it, which is our job to make them aware of it and get them interested. So that's pretty much it, Stephen. Yeah.
And so what I know about the major group are going to do the thing that you're talking about and in Stephen's Crainn, and they have a bunch of speakers up there. But on the day, on 420, and but on the 23rd, they have a big event in the park, which is the thing they usually do under that. What do you call that? You have a name for that? No, that spire.
The Wellington Monument, is it?
Wellington Monument, yeah. So that's where it'll be on Sunday. A bit of a picnic, a lot of prizes, their giveaways, and it's a bit of a family day out. And so everybody should check out these two events. So we'll leave details at the end of the video here. And subscribe and hit the bell, people, because I never do that. I keep forgetting. So do it now. Subscribe. We need subscribers because it means we don't have to fight to find you. So that's it, Ryan. Thanks a lot, man. We'll leave it at that. Good stuff.
Thank you.